sometimes just come home or in the morning, right before I go to work, I'll just write out the chords and song in my head. So say for example, I'm writing a ballad now for an artist. I'll start singing, you know, the melody like and I'll start to work out the compositions at home sometimes, because you know I'm not at the studio. It's not like last time anymore. Last time it used to be like, okay, when EDM or dubstep came into the picture, everyone was doing it, right? Even the pop artists who had shouldn't be going anywhere near dubstep was doing dubstep. But nowadays, right, everyone is it's very varied. Everyone's doing different things and it's okay. And I think we live in a very interesting time because everyone can do anything and it can immediately become a hit as long as it reaches the right audience. And that's what social media has for today. My name is Daniel Veerapen. I'm a music producer and music director. I'm from Malaysia, Kuala Lumpur, born and raised. I've been doing this for about almost close to 15 years now. 15 years in this industry, on and off as well. Previously I was a jazz musician, jazz pianist, and I was doing the whole live jazz music scene around Malaysia. And I went slowly more into production when I was producing for artists and musicians alike. The first musical instrument that I played was piano, of course, and I still play the piano. I then stopped because I didn't quite like the gradings, and you know, ABRSM was very, very tough. Then I started picking up the drums, and I started playing the drums a lot in high school. Eventually I went back to the piano because, you know, to dabble in all kinds of music. I performed in the school orchestra and the school band, and I started dabbling in computer production, DAW production, which would be the standard today. But I started from there and I just fell in love with it. And from then on, I just carried on in music, and I knew this was what I wanted to do. When I was a jazz musician, right, the kind of practices and mentality that you have to performing live is completely different to when I'm a producer now. For example, when you're a jazz musician, right, it's all about discipline, practice, punctuality, making sure you're committed to your gig, making sure that you're committed to your rehearsals and your fellow bandmates. Especially when you're a sessionist, you're not just playing with one particular band, you go around in multiple bands and everything. So your life is full of discipline, practice, and it should be, because you know, if you want to be at the top of your class, you have to have that discipline as well as the respect for your other musicians, punctuality. But when transitioning into becoming a music producer, it becomes a completely different ballgame. You have to learn to, for example, have good PR. Learn to socialize more. You have to have good client relations. You have to be able to, for example, present in a meeting. You also have to understand what the trends is in current music and what people want. It's a completely different mindset, both equally hard to do. But when transitioning to becoming a music producer, wow, it was a bit of a slow learning curve, I have to admit. But eventually I would like to think that I got it. The most proudest work I've done would probably be music directing for the SEA Games opening ceremony. And because you are doing something in a world stage, that you are representing the country for the entire world to see, you have to be at your absolute A game when it comes to production, composition, and musical arrangements, and making sure that everything was spot on. So I would say that's my most proudest moment. Usually, actually what I like to do is when I'm having a writer's block, and it's something that is a big no in my industry, you don't have time to have a writer's block. I found that sometimes what I like to do is go outside. Movement really, really works. I'll drive, get into the car, and it's like, if I'm stuck here, I'll get into the car and I'll start moving and I'll have a listen to the piece of music again, and I'll have all kinds of ideas. But generally, the thing that I love to do to make sure that I'm always having the inspiration is that I love to, especially when I'm writing music, I love to visualize something first before I write. Say if I'm writing a EDM track, I like to imagine a crowd first listening to the track. Then I create the music. I like, if I'm writing a love song, I like to imagine I imagine the story of the couple first, and then I write the music. In a way, I guess that's why I love film scoring, because the thing is already there for me to write the music to, instead of me having to imagine. Well, I guess because Kawai is the first ever piano that I played, and it's been the only piano that I've had since I was a kid. I've had a grand piano Kawai and an upright Kawai, as you saw. I guess you would say it's the piano that I'm the most familiar with, especially when it comes to the touch. I trained my entire finger strength off the Kawai, and it's allowed me to actually play and adapt to a lot of other pianos, especially when you're gigging as well. But the Kawai is going to always have a special place in my heart because of the fact that it's something I shared the most amount of memories with. I've done my first composition on the Kawai. I've played and practiced all my jazz pieces on the Kawai. I still compose on the Kawai today, and whenever I go home to a Kawai. I've had this studio for about 5 years, but I was sort of running it as a house studio, I think 8-9 years. And for the longest time, I was going under Daniel Veerapen, of course. It's like, oh, who do you want to get to produce? Oh, let's get Daniel Veerapen. But you sort of need to have an accounts and a business, right? So I didn't know what to do. I was just, at a house, and I was like, asked my friend, what should I call this studio? Everyone just refers to me as Daniel Veerapen. You're always working at home, call it Di Rumah lah. And then I was like, oh, Di Rumah. But that doesn't sound very cool for a studio production house. Why don't we romanticize it a bit and call it Di Rumah? And that's how the name Di Rumah came about. It's absolutely crucial to think nowadays that you yourself, especially when you're starting out, is the personal brand. You are the personal brand. You are your own marketing, you are your own talent, you are your own creative, you are your own director and producer. You are your own everything, and that is how you are going to stand out today. In every platform that you're in, social media, YouTube, TikTok, you yourself should know how to develop yourself. And it's even better today because we have so many platforms to express ourselves. It is so easy to develop our personal brand, but it is also very easy to ruin our own personal brand. So that is where the new challenges of today for the younger talents is. But the great news is that you have the power to take control of that right now. Use your own name. Build your own name, exactly like what I did. Just went under Daniel Veerapen, and then people would identify your work with your name. And that's the best way to build your own brand, in fact. A lot of times, a lot of talents and artists also want to have different names for different projects that they do. Or like, I'm going to be called so-and-so because I'm going to make trance. I'm going to be called so-and-so because I'm going to do rock. And then what happens is that they dilute the information out there about you. If you have it all under one name, this is what I prefer. I prefer to have it all under one name because you then become that brand. You then become a producer or an artist who is be able to, do anything, in fact, as well. And what then it happens is it becomes easier for people to track and identify you. And this goes with not just music as well, this also goes when you want to make a statement, when you want to talk about anything, because nowadays, right, building a brand, if you're an artist, it's not just about creating music, it's also about the things you say, how you engage with your audience. When you start getting brands coming up to you and asking you to endorse their products as well, that is all on you. That becomes your whole persona. So it's good to have that in mind. I guess as you grow, you can't, when you want to get to a more professional standard, especially when you're working with clients, big clients like Nestle or anything like that, or Petronas, right? You can't just be a freelancer anymore. You have to have your own establishment, your own office, your own space for people to come and view the work. So of course, a name needed to be created as well. I guess in something, actually, it turned out to be something better than I imagined, to be honest. Because it turned out to be something that really developed me in the things I said before. It pushed me to have good social skills. It pushed me to talk to people more, pushed me to understand people more, right? And if you're going to grow a production house or grow a business around music production, right, the skill set that it takes for you to do that is it's life-changing as well. It's good practices and skills to have. Yeah, sure. There are times when it's okay, all fun and parties as well. There are times when you get to, of course, meet a lot of celebrities and artists and talents, and working with them is each one is its own, its own event as well. Every time you're working with a different artist, but ultimately, it's a very serious profession. It's something that is. You have to have a very good business mind and sense to it as well. I did not expect myself to be a music producer or director or anything that I'm doing now. I guess the thing that I would tell myself is, as cheesy as it sounds, right? Really just don't give up. Don't give up on anything. Not to say don't give up on your dreams. When times are going to get hard, times are going to get easy, and it's going to get hard again, and it's going to get easy and hard again. But it's throughout that entire time, I'm sure we've heard it before, consistency is key. And there's times when you are feeling you're wasting your time. Every artist goes through this where they feel like they're not making an impact, they're not doing anything of value. And it's those times where you really need to hear not to give up and just keep going.